Okay, good Vach everyone. As we learn this Motzei Shabbos, sponsored by A.B. Spry for the Gesundheit and Nachas from his entire family, and by Michal Avram Chavin, we should all learn Shas with Gesund. Tonight we are specially sponsored by Aaron Swade, Lili Nishmas, his mother, on her yard site, Sora Bas Aaron. Her neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should be a Melitza Yeshara for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. Let's see. Saba, do you know the code by the garage upstairs?
Where?
By my garage.
No.
No.
I know the code to get into driveway. The code by the door?
Yeah.
I think that's 4526.
4526. Let me just text that to him. I think it's 4526.
45. Then it's to the right.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having trouble getting it. Okay, 40.
Okay.
By somebody locked the door?
I guess so.
Is anybody downstairs? Let them open up the door.
Nobody's downstairs here yet.
Oh, no?
Okay. We are holding. He's gotten in.
Who's that?
Michal Avram.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm surprised you were only coming.
Okay. Now,
Rabbi, you have to welcome the people.
yes, thank you. We welcome in Saba, and we welcome in Shimon Deer and Aaron Swade. We welcome Eddie Chazan, A.B. Spry, Stephen Holtzman, Irving Fishbaum, Shimon Klein, Dr. Black, Nachman Chapler, Ilya Shutman, Rabbi Kranz, Yehuda from Yerushalayim, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Shelley Zeitlin, Yitzi Fuchs, Chaim Braun. Here we have Michal Avram. We have David Helfgott on Kol HaLashon. And we are just getting underway for a pretty hard evening of Tu Blat as we are coming down the home stretch of this most difficult of Parakim. So we were talking about a case where Tony took a loan from Eddie, and then Shelley said, Tony took a loan. Tonight is David Helfgott's 41st yard site of his father, and Shama should have an aliyah. And we're going to welcome in Bruce Eisenberg. Let's put that in the books over here. So anyway, Tony took a loan from Eddie, and what happened was the other way around. Eddie took a loan from Tony. Eddie took a $10,000 loan from Tony, and he paid $1,000 ribis, and which he's allowed to do because it's from a guy, and he was going to pay it up. But Shelley said, Eddie, instead of paying it up, give it to me, and I'll pay the extra $1,000. Give me the $10,000, and I'll pay the extra $1,000. So he said, if it goes from Eddie to Shelley, it's not allowed, because then it's a yid taking ribbis from a yid. But if Eddie puts it in front of Tony, and then Shelley takes it, so then it's okay. So, but we asked that there's no shlichus to a guy. So how is that allowed? And it's not talking about where Eddie gave it back to Tony, because then of course it would be allowed. So now the Gemara explains another possibility, and that is 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Ayin Aleph from the base. Ravina Amar Nehei de Shlichus L'Nachri Leslei. Even though Tony cannot be a shliach because he's a guy, Zechia Midrabanan Islay. You could be Zeicha in it for the guy. So what happened over here is that Eddie gives it to Shelley. Shelley is first Zeicha in it for Tony, and then he takes it from Tony, which is then allowed. Says the Gemara, Midei Dahavi Cotton. The din is the same as a minor. Lav afal gav leslei shlichus. A minor can't be a shliach, but islay is a chiyah midrabanan. But you could be zeicha in something for a child. So here too, the Gemara suggests that Shelley could be zeicha in it for the guy, and then take it from the guy. However, the Gemara says, however, the Gemara says, Wallahi, as we welcome in Shelley, we welcome in Naftali Javelin, as we are now starting Ayin Beis Amud Aleph, and we welcome in Moshe Lehman, as people are beginning to roll in here on this Motzei Shabbos. By the way, if anybody gets a hold of Mrs. Padower's name, I would like to learn Le'ili Nishmasa, but I don't have the name. However, the Gemara says, V'lohi, it's not a good comparison. You know why a child, you could be Zeicha for a child, because Yisrael Osi L'Klal Shlichus. He will eventually become an adult, and therefore he has a potential to be a Shliach. Akam, a guy, Le'asi L'Klal Shlichus, and therefore there's no Zechiyah for a guy either. Now, Tan Rabbana, as we welcome in Yitzi Muller for our 25th Zoomer of this young Motzei Shabbos. You can see we're holding 3 lines from the top of Daf Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. I ask Hashem for the Siyata D'Shmaya to learn with you these 2 rather complex dafim. Tan Rabbana, Yisrael Shalava Ma'is Min Anochri Beribis. What happened over here is Shelley borrowed money from Tony. He borrowed $10,000 with $1,000 interest, and then says the Gemara, what Shelley did is v'zokfin olav b'milva. He then converted it into a promissory note of a loan for $11,000. In other words, it was $10,000 plus $1,000, and he converted it into a promissory note of $11,000. V'nizgayer, Tony became Matisyo. Now there's a problem of taking ribbis. Im koidim shenizgayer zokvan olav b'milva. If before he converted it into a loan, instead of 10,000 plus 1,000 ribbis, he converted it into an IOU note for 11,000. So then goyves hakevin v'goyves haribis. Even though he became now matisyo, he could collect the principal and he could collect the interest. V'im le'achar shenizgayer, but if after he converted zokvin olav b'milva, he converted it into a loan, but he was matisyo and it was still 10,000 plus 1,000 of interest, then goyves hakaren, he could only collect the 10,000. Ve'ena goyves haribis, he can't collect the interest because a yid can't take interest. Now here the other way around. V'chein nochri shalava ma'is mi Yisrael baribis. What happened is Tony borrowed from Shelley. Tony borrowed from Shelley $10,000 plus 1,000 ribbis, which Shelley's allowed to do because Tony is a guy. And then v'zakfin alav b'milva, it was reformatted. Instead of saying that Tony owes Shelley 10,000 plus 1,000 ribbis, it was reformatted to be a loan for $11,000. V'nizgayer, and then Tony became matisyo. Im akshaloi nizgayer, if before he converted it was reformatted to a loan of 11,000 zakvan alav b'milva, then goyves hakeren to goyves haribis. Then Shelley could take the 11,000. But imnishin is guy. But if it's only after Tony converted that it was zakvan alav b'milva, so while he was already matisyo was a loan for 10,000 plus 1,000 ribis, goyves hakeren ve'ena goyves haribis. He can't collect the interest because he'd be taking an interest from a person who is already matisyo. Rabbi Yaisi says a big chiddush. Rabbi Yaisi says even nachri shalav amayis be Yisrael b'ribis ben kach, even if he converted before it was reformatted into a loan, Shelley is allowed to take the ribis from him. Goyves hakeren v'goyves ribis. Why? Because we don't want to say that Tony converted in order to get out of the ribis. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Huna, Alok Rabbi Yaisi. And what's the reason of Rabbi Yaisi? Amar Rav, my time in the Rabbi Yaisi, Kidei Shelo Yaimu, that they shouldn't say Bishmil Ma'osav in order to get out of the ribis. Niskayozeh. Now here's an interesting thing, and this is probably who would collect ribis? A marshal. So Tanarabanan, Shtar Shekasab by Ribis, a document that says that Marshall gave a loan to Shelley for $10,000 with $1,000 of interest. So, we penalize Marshall. Ve'ena goyva loyas hakeren v'loyas haribis. He can't collect the principal nor the interest. So, in other words, we strip him of the $10,000. That's Dippin Rameh. The Chacham, as Marshall looks with a wounded face, what do you want for my 10 grand? The Chacham, he could collect the 10 grand, just paying a goyves haribis. He can't collect the interest. Look, the interest was unlawful, but the 10 grand he gave a loan to Shelley. So the Gemara.
Her name was Chaya Malka Bas Menachem Tzvi.
We learned for Chaya Malka Bas Menachem Tzvi. Chaya Malka Bas Menachem Tzvi, the wife of our Chaver Adaf, Yitzi Padoer, and
He said, "Thank you very much."
And she should really be a Malitzi Yeshara, even though normally the first year we don't say Malitzi Yeshara, but a young woman like this that passes away, she should be a Malitzi Yeshara for our entire family that is in very, very great distress right now. So the Chacham say, listen, what do you want from poor Marshall? Goyves HaKaren, he could collect the 10 grand. Bein Goyves and Rebbe, look, he made a mistake, he collected interest. Everybody's human. But what do you want from the 10 grand? So, b'may kamifligi, what are they arguing about? We throw the book at people like Marshall. You know, we don't want anybody collecting interest. We let them know they collect interest, they're going to lose the principal. While Rabbanan survey, the Rabbanan hold, we don't cancel the heter because of the Yisr. Okay, now if you remember, we learned in many places in Shas that you can't have, Marshall, you should know this, you can't have a predated shtar. Because a predated shtar gives you the ability illegally to have a lien before you're entitled to the lien. You're only entitled to have a lien from the time that you gave the loan. So if, for example, if Marshall gives a loan to Eddie, so he has a lien on Eddie's property from the day of the loan. And that means that people that buy from Eddie after that date, and then Eddie can't pay Marshall, Marshall could take it away from the buyers. But he can't take from buyers that bought before the date. So if it's predated, it gives him an illegal right to take from people before he has a lien. So Tanan Osam, we learned, Shtorei Choyv HaMukdamim, predated shtaris are psulin. V'amucharin, if they're post-dated, now if it's post-dated, that just marshal is being done. Why would he post-date it? He loses a lien. He's only hurting himself. So v'amucharin ksheir. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Why do you say that a predated shtar is possible? If witnesses say that he gave it on May 1st, and it was dated April 1st, it shouldn't be possible. He just should only be able to collect from May 1st. Why say that it's possible? So the Gemara asks, Mutaman amai psulin. Nehei deloy gavu mizman arishin, even though he can't collect from April 1st, but nigvu mizman sheni, he should be able to collect from May 1st, which the witnesses testify is when he gave the loan or when he made the sale. The fact that it says it's possible, it must be a machlokes for a Meiri. It's going according to Rab Meir that we can't see on Hateira Atu Yisura. So therefore we throw the book at him and we even can't collect for May 1st. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, no. Afilu Teimer Rabbanan, it could even be going according to the Rabbanan. But we're afraid if we allow Marshall to collect from May 1st, he might collect from April 1st. Gezeira Shema Yigva Mizman Rishon. He might collect from the earlier time. Now, you got to hear this. You got to. Boy, you can't trust Marshall. Whoa. You got to hear this story. Abi took a loan from Marshall. Abi's usually smarter than that, but maybe it was Purim, he was drunk, and he took a loan from Marshall. Marshall, who's a cautious fellow, asks Abi to give him collateral. So Abi gives Marshall a vineyard for collateral. So again, get the case. Get the case. What's happening over here? Abi, in a temporary state of insanity, takes a loan from Marshall, and he gives Marshall a vineyard as collateral. So now let's follow the case, because, Hahu Gavra, whenever it says Hahu Gavra, so Hahu Gavra, the Mashkin le Pardisa lechavrei. Abi took a loan from Marshall, and he gave him a orchard as collateral. Now, what happened is Marshall used the orchard. Abi didn't pay up the debt, and Marshall used the orchard for 3 years. Now, Abi should have known, if somebody uses your land for 3 years without protest, he could claim that he bought it. That's called the Cheskes Gimel Shanim. We're going to learn all about that in Bava Basra. So Marshall had the collateral for 3 years. Now, Abi is supposed to register a protest in court that it's mine. But Abi is he's a borough parker. He thinks everybody is honest, right? So he didn't bother to protest. So Ahu Gavra, the Mishkan Le Pardisa Lechavre, he gave the orchard to Marshall as collateral. Achla Tlashne, and Marshall used it for 3 years. Now, Marshall got his beady eyes on Abi's orchard, and he wanted to buy it. So Marshall blackmails Abi. He says, look, Abi, sell it to me. If you don't sell it to me, I'll hide the loan document, and I'll claim that I bought it from you. And I'll have a Cheskes Gimel Shanim, so you'll be out of it without money. So you might as well sell it to me. And this is what you're dealing with. So let's see it inside. Amalei, Marshall says, Imazvis lo nihali, if you sell it to me, Mutav, we're best friends. I'll pay you good money. V'iloi, but if you're not going to sell it to me, Kovishna lo l'shtar mashkanta, I'll hide the loan document, the collateral document. Va'amina lekuchi biyadi, and I'm going to claim that I bought it from you, and I have it 3 years, so I don't have to keep the paper. So what did Abi do? Push comes to shove. Abi wasn't born yesterday. Push comes to shove. Abi's been in the business longer than Marshall. So what does Abi do? Abi first goes ahead and he transfers the field to the orchard to his minor child. Also, come akne lebnei cotton. Now, once it's a child, it's locked into the child because a child can't even make a business deal if he wanted to. After, in front of Adam, he gave it over to a child. We'll call the child Sonny. After he transferred it to Sonny, then then he wrote up a document selling it to Marshall for $100,000. Of course, that sale is a bogus sale because he can't sell it. It's not his. It belongs to the child. But since Marshall, was trying to blackmail him, so he goes ahead and he makes, in front of court, he sells the orchard to Marshall for $100,000. He gives him a deed of sale, and Marshall gives him the $100,000. So now the plot thickens. So the Hodder Zavna Nihali, he sells it to Marshall for $100,000. It says to Gemara, the sale is definitely not a good sale. Zvine vadi lo have zvine. It's not a good sale because it belonged to the child. Okay, now Marshall wants his $100,000. He paid him for $100,000. He wants his $100,000. If Abi doesn't have $100,000, could Marshall get it back from Abi's mortgaged properties because he has a document? But the document is worthless because it wasn't a good sale. Says the Gemara, do we say Kamilva b'shtar dami? Do we say that it's like a loan with a shtar because Marshall's holding a document that he gave the $100,000? And then he could collect, if Abi doesn't have the money, he could collect from people that bought from Abi. Or because it's like an oral loan, because it's not, the shtar has no value. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaya. So Abaya says, V'lav hainu durabasi. The Amar Ravasi, as we turn yet another page. Oh, is this exciting? Turning yet another page in Ezo Nesha. V'hainu de Ravasi. The Amar Ravasi, for Ravasi says, in a case, let's say that Dr. Block presents a shtar that Eddie owes him 50 grand. And Eddie said, I paid it already. Now, he's not believed to say I paid it already. Because if he paid it already, why didn't he rip up the document from Dr. Block? The question is, does Dr. Block have to confirm the document? Normally, in order to collect, you have to authenticate a document. But here, Eddie authenticates it by saying that he paid it. That means he says that the document is valid. So it says, if Eddie admits that it was written, and you could collect with it for mortgage properties, even though Eddie claims it was already paid. So here too, Abi admits that he sold the orchard to Marshall, but he says that he couldn't sell it. It belonged to a child. So, but he admits to the transaction, so the shtar should be able to be used. Amalei Rava says no. There's no comparison. Mi dami hasam nitain li kasef. Since Eddie admitted that he owed the money to Dr. Block, that means that shtar was properly written. Hacha loy nitein li kasev. Over here it wasn't properly written, because since the property was not Abi's to sell, he couldn't sell the orchard because he gifted it to a child. That document was not meant to be written. So Yosef Merema v'ka'ama lahashmaitza. Merema was sitting and sang over this dictum. So Amalei Ravina l'Merema, so Ravina said to Merema, Elahada Amar Rabbi Yochanan, that which Rabbi Yochanan says, Gezeira Shema Yigma Mizman Rishon, that in the event that Marshall has a predated shtar, you can't collect from May 1st, because you might collect from April 1st. We should say, how could you collect from April 1st? Name a loy nitein li kasev. That was a shtar that was not allowed to be written, because it's predated. Says the Gemara, yeah, but it wasn't meant to be written from April 1st, but it could be written from May 1st. It wasn't meant to be written from May 1st. It wasn't written to be meant from April 1st, but it could be written from May 1st. Here it wasn't meant to be written at all, because the orchard belonged to the child. Says the Gemara, asking one more case as we welcome in Gedalia Engel, as we're just getting underway on this Motzi Shabbos marathon, and you know, they coined the phrase by the last Siyum Hashas, heroes of the Daf, at 11:15 in the night, to learn two blot of Ezel Neshech is, in my mind, a very good example of heroes of the Daf. I'm getting there. We're on Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis, and we're holding by Elahah, which is 8 lines from the top of Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis. 8 lines from the top of Daf Ayin Hey Amud Beis. Elahah Detanya L'shvach karkois ketzad. What's an example of improvement? Hari shegazel sada mechaverei. What happened over here is Eddie stole a field from Shelley. This is Eddie you're talking about. So Eddie stole a field from Shelley, and now he's looking for a gullible guy. So and he sold it to Marshall. So again, Eddie stole a field from Shelley. Easy come, easy go. He stole the field from Shelley, and he sold it to Marshall. Vishbicha. Marshall put up a fence around it. He improved it. Now, so Marshall is evicted by Shelley. Shelley brings proof it's his field. The court gives him a writ of seizure, and he takes back the field plus the fence. Now, Marshall, who he wasn't born yesterday, Marshall bought it from Eddie with security. So now he's coming back for the money for the field and for the fence. So Kishu Gaiva, when he collects, he could collect the money for the field even from Eddie's mortgage properties. But the shvach, the fence, the shaila is, though, why could he collect with this shtar? Eddie couldn't sell it. It wasn't his. It was Shelley's. So why don't we say, this shtar is not meant to be written. So this kasha we already dealt with earlier. And we said that Eddie, either that he shouldn't be known as a thief, or that he shouldn't lose his credibility, was ready to make it good to buy it from Shelley. And here the Gemara says, Hachi Ashta, what's the comparison? he would prefer not to be known as a thief. This is Eddie when he was younger, before he got his reputation. Ila mandiyama, or nechale delekem be'emnuse. He should be known as a trustworthy person. Mefayis le'lamare, he would appease Shelley by buying it, or mukum le'lashtari, and uphold the shtar. But here, remember, it was Abi that got rooked by the scoundrel marshal, who said, if you don't sell me the orchard, I'm going to claim that it's mine, even though he only got it as collateral. So Abi definitely is not going to appease and uphold the shtar. He wanted to get it away from Marshall. He wants to get it away from him. He's definitely not going to uphold the shtar. And therefore that's a shtar that's loinitain likaseh. By the way,
I got a problem.
By the way, we know that. By the way, with the moral of the story, of course, is that if you let Marshall hold your field, protest within 3 years. And that's always, we're going to learn about Bava Metzia extensively. Anytime somebody is occupying your field, you never allow them to occupy it 3 years without issuing a machah. Because after 3 years, if they used it without a protest, they could claim they bought it, and they don't have to keep the paper anymore.
Okay, so my problem is, my wife convinced me to go on the shear tonight. We're going to go out for my anniversary, and I'm getting pounded. So, did I make the right move?
Wow, it's happy anniversary. Wow.
That's not what I heard a few minutes ago.
Wow, it's your anniversary tonight?
English Day, yeah, Baruch Hashem.
Wow, it's amazing. Another year she held out with you. Wow. Wow.
Don't worry, it cost me dearly.
Okay, all right, we have to treat you with kid gloves. Okay. It's your anniversary.
Gloves, I know this year.
You have to treat you with kid gloves. Now, says the Mishnah, Ein Poiskin, now we're getting back to pure ribbis again, to forward contracts. Now let's review outside the way it works with forward contracts. Let's say Marshall wants to buy from me wheat and get wheat at the rate. Let's say I promise him to deliver him 4 sa at a seller. And delivery will be in 6 months. I could deliver him 4 sa in 6 months, even though in 6 months 4 sa might be worth 5 sa. But why is that? Why don't you say that because he waited for delivery, I'm giving him more? And that's agarnota. So, if either one of 2 conditions are met, we're allowed to make this arrangement. One condition is if I have the wheat at the time of the purchase. Because if I have the wheat at the time of the purchase, it's considered like that wheat is already Marshall's. So if it goes up in value, it went up in value in Marshall's rishus. That's one possibility. The other possibility is even if I don't have wheat, but if there's already a fixed market rate, there's a shar that you could get 4 sa for a seller. So therefore, since I could buy it now, therefore it would be considered as it's already Marshall's. And when it goes up in his rishus, even if I don't have it, but I have the ability to buy it. So let's see this inside. Ein paiskin ala peiris. Marshall can't stipulate a price with for a certain amount with a delivery at a later date, until the price is fixed. Because once the price is fixed, I could buy it right now, and then it would be Marshall's, and it would be go up in Marshall's possession. Yotza Ashar Poiskin. Because even if I don't have the actual wheat in my possession, yesh lezeh, I could get it from somebody else. If let's say I was the first of the reapers, and the delivery won't be till later on, but the rate already was determined, I could stipulate with him that when the crops are heaped up, he'll get delivery. Or on a vat of grapes, or maton shel zaysim, or on pressed olives, shel yoitzer, or on the clay of a potter, sid mishishika bekivshin, or on lime once it's sunk in the kiln. And I could fix a price on dung, the whole year, because the whole year manure is available. Rabbi Yossi says it's not so. People don't sell their manure; they need it for themselves. So Rabbi Yossi ain't poiskin ala zevel. I cannot make a price for later on manure unless I have manure in an ashpa myself. Elim kain hoiselay zevel ba'ashpa. The Chachamim matirim, the Chachamim permit it. We're going to see in the Gemara what the difference is between the Tanakama and the Chachamim Basroi. And you could also stipulate that if the price goes down, then Marshall will get the delivery at the higher price now. But you have to stipulate that. Rabbi Yehuda says, even if he doesn't stipulate that, Marshall could say, look, since I didn't make Mashiach, I didn't acquire it, either give it to me at the higher price, or give me back my money. Give it to me at the higher rate, or give me back my money. Now, it's very hard to say these Gemaras. It needs special siyata d'shmaya. There's a big schus of the Eilam. It's a schus of this chosh of Eilam. You want to check if there's any cold water? I would even take cold Coke if there was.
Oh, now we're talking.
I have to celebrate your anniversary.
Got a 2-liter in the fridge. Come on down.
Amar Ravasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Ein poiskin al shar shebeshuk. When Marshall makes a forward arrangement, it's not enough that there's a fixed rate in the market, because that rate doesn't stay longer for a few days. And thank you very much. L'chaim, Marshall. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. So Amalei, they said Amalei Rab Zera la'asi Ravasi Rab Yochanan afilu kedurma sazeh, even if there's a fixed rate in the central exchange. So Amalei loy, no, if there's a fixed rate in the central exchange, since he could get it that way, it's considered as if he has it. The small marketplace in the cities, not in the central exchange. They don't have such a fixed rate, it fluctuates. So the Gemara says, "Olaman the Solikadai to make kara according to the Havamina. The Amar Rabbi Yechon afilu kedurmas hazeh, even the central exchange. Elamas nisan diktani ein paiskel al peris achiyotz hashar until the rate comes out. If it doesn't mean the central exchange, yotz hashar paiskel that you could make a forward arrangement if there is a fixed rate. Heichen mishkach. So if it's not even enough, the central exchange, then what is enough?" Says the Gemara, Masnisen bechite da'achlabe va'arbe. The Mishnah is talking about wheat, where the rate is from the storage houses and from the boats that arrive at the dock. Those rates stay longer. The Mashach Tirei Tvei, those rates stay fixed longer. Tan Rabbanan, ein paiskin ala peris, you can't make a forward arrangement. Achi yotza ashar, until the rate comes out. Yotza ashar paiskin, because afal pishein lezeh, even if he doesn't have it, that we could say that Marshall's considered as if he has it already, but yesh lezeh, somebody else has it. However, says the Gemara, hayu chadosha ismei arba. If new grain is selling for 4 sub a seller, and Marshall wants to make an arrangement that he wants to be guaranteed to get 4 sa for a seller, but v'yeshenish mishalosh. But old grain is 3 sa a seller. Now, the reason why new grain is 4 sa a seller, because while it's new, it's moist and it's swollen. But once it dries out, it's 3 sa a seller. So if Marshall gets a fixed rate of 4 sa a seller, and then he gets delivery later of 4 sa of dried wheat at a seller, he's getting ribbis, he's getting interest. So ein paiskin, you can't do it until everything dries out and there's one level shar, one level rate. Now here's an interesting thing. The aniyim would get leket. Their price was much cheaper. And the reason why their price was much cheaper is because their stuff was a mixture from many fields. And sometimes there was even different types of grain. So it was really in an inferior, it was an inferior product. So from the gleaners, the price might be 4 sub a seller. But from a homeowner that sells, uniform grain from one field, it's 3 sub a seller. So your lekutais me'arba, if the gleaners had a cheaper rate of 4 sub a seller, or lekol adam mishalosh, and to everybody else it's 3, so I can't make up that I'm going to give Marshall the gleaner's rate for regular crops. You could only make it up when it's the same amount. I can't give him the cheaper rate for the gleanings. However, Amar Rav Nachman paiskin l'lekutais k'shara lekutais. But I could stipulate that I'll give him the rate of gleanings. I could stipulate that I'll sell him food of the gleaners according to the rate of the gleaners, because that's fair. There's no increase there at all. I'm going to give him stuff that's bought from aniyim. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman, Maishna loiket. Why can it be that Marshall could only make such a deal with a poor person, di'i lesley? Because if he doesn't have enough of his own gleanings, Yosef Maloikid Chavra, he'll get it from another poor person. So Marshall should be able to make this deal even with a balabayas, even with a rich landowner. As long as he's stipulating that he's taking payment from gleaners, why can't he do it even with a balabayas? Because if the balabayas doesn't have gleanings himself, he could get it from another poor person. Balabayas nami Yosef Maloikid. So Gemara says the Balabais would be embarrassed to take it from a poor person. And he's going to give Marshall better stuff, which would be ribbis. Or else the idea is that when Marshall makes a deal with a Balabayas, he's expecting delivery of uniform stuff. And therefore, if he gives him uniform stuff at the lower price of the loikit, because Marshall is waiting for delivery, that's ribbis. He's saying, I'll pay Rishvira Yarv. He goes for quality uniform stuff and not for the poor stuff. Now, Rav Sheshis tells Rav Huna, when you're dealing with money, it's different. Now, don't get too attached to this. The Gemara is going to change their mind about this. But what the Gemara wants to say now is that if Marshall gives Eddie a loan of $1,000, he can't stipulate that Eddie should pay him 100 kur of wheat. Not so much. 10 kur of wheat. Because later on, the 10 kur of wheat will be worth more. Could be worth more. And then that would be ribbis. But why don't we say if Eddie has the 10 kur of wheat now already, it should be allowed. Or if the price went out already, and Eddie could buy the 10 kur of wheat now, it should be allowed. So let's see this inside. Amar Rav Huna ein loiven al shar shebeshuk. If Eddie takes a loan from Marshall of $1,000, he can't make up to pay him 10 kur, even though the price of 10 kur now is $1,000. Amalei Rav Yisbach, Amalei Rav Sheshis, Vimel Rav Yisbach, Amalei Rav Sheshis, Omir Amar Rav Huna Hachi. The Rav Huna say this. V'aboy minei Rav Huna Hani Bnei Beirav. The yeshiva people, the Yosvei b'Tishrei, they take a loan in Tishrei. Right? They take a loan right after Rosh Hashanah, and they take a loan right after Rosh Hashanah, Upare b'Tevis, and they pay back with crops in Tevis. Shari Yaser, is it permitted or not? So Amalahu, so he said, well, since the Barbe Rav could get that value of crops, now the rate is out. So he buys vina. If they want, they could buy it now with Parile and pay him now. So if it goes up in price, it's considered if it went up in price by Marshall, so it's allowed. So why do you say the Rav Huna says it's not allowed? Says the Gemara make karas of Rav Huna ein loiven. Initially, Rav Huna thought that you're not allowed to. Kevin the Shamil Adam Rav Shmuel Bar Chia Amar Rebbe Lazar, that loiven that you're allowed to. Amar Ionami loiven that you're allowed to, and that's why he allowed the Barbe Rav to do it. Okay, we're going to go on to change the channel and start the next daf, which is unbelievable.